I mean, I think it's kind of easy to, and unfortunately easy to talk about kind of poor representation that we've seen. But I'm curious, while there's been a push for more like quote unquote diverse stories in genre fiction, which shows do you think have been successful in showing, various women of color, and what specifically do you think they did right?
I have to think on this. I don't want to say a show and then someone be like, well, actually. And I'll be like, oh, snap.
Nothing's perfect. Nothing's perfect.
No well actually allowed.
I'll go. You know what? For me, I really liked there was a show on Fox called The Passage, which was based on an amazing series of books that I loved, and they canceled it. And what I liked about it was that there was there were various women of color on the show. One was a doctor who was a scientist who was really doing some ethically questionable things. But she was allowed to be like, oh my gosh, this is the worst thing ever. But then she was like, screw it, I'm doing it anyway because I have to save humanity. You don't really get to see that, you get to see, oh my gosh, I'm just totally bad and I'm stoic. You don't get to see complex people. And then the heroine, she young, dark-skinned black girl, which you don't really see, rough and tough with the Afro puffs. And, that's, I really, really love that. That was the first thing that came to mind, and then, they canceled it, but I'm not bitter.
I'm bitter. On that same vein, though, the Orville did a really good job of just letting their characters of color exist. Mm-hmm. There weren't any, black jokes.
Yes, it wasn't like dun dun person of color.
Oh, good. It was like, okay, there are these people of color on the ship. They're doing their jobs. On with the plot now. Like there was a robot. There was the doctor's name. I forgot her name. But they had a robot and this doctor fall in love. And, while at first I was like, this is a cop-out, then I was like, wait, they don't let black women fall in love often on TV. I'm going to take it. And, I actually really like The Orville, so if you guys haven't started it, start it. It's on Hulu.
Does it have to be a sci-fi show?
No.
One Day at a Time?
Yes.
Which got renewed.
Yes, it did.
But One Day at a Time has a lot of female characters, and the main family they focus on. They have the three generations. So the grandmother, the mother, and the daughter, and you can kind of see each generation has distinct kind of cultural differences from the time period and the people that they grow up in. And so they did a really good job, I felt like, of kind of addressing the challenges that each generation faces, and the way that they adapted to and confronted these difficulties, and also how that can kind of clash between generations a little bit.
Yeah.
And they're also very cute, and the daughter is just a huge nerd, and there's a whole episode where she goes and cosplays as the Doctor in the TARDIS with one of her friends at a comic book convention. I was just I do love, she's very proud of her Cuban heritage, and she's also very much just hardcore nerd. And those two things, they do not conflict. Mm-hmm. We can have both of those.
Any thoughts, Joe?
Yes, so actually when I read this question prior to the panel, I was actually kind of laughing at myself because I have not watched a lot of shows on purpose because of the lack of diversity. Sci-fi, in the sci-fi realm. Have you guys heard of this show Superstore?
Yes!
So that one I feel like it's just, it doesn't have...
Yes! I love that show.
I feel like they just do a great job with a simple storyline, diverse, cast, without a huge message that people have to walk away thinking oh my gosh, it's just human characteristics and I feel like I kind of like that. It doesn't have to be a message. It doesn't, it's always nice, but it doesn't always have to be a strong message about a lot of social justice issues. It's always a good thing, but definitely it's just nice.
Yeah, because we exist in more than one dimension.
Right, so we're not confined in this one.
I feel like you can always
character.
kind of guess a little bit like what the writing room of the show must look
Yes.
like
Yes.
based
Yes.
on how they portray people of color, and when they're like, you
Yeah.
know, as a black woman,
Right.
you're just like,
Oh no, sweetie.
okay.
I think me.
Speaking of
We'll talk
that
about this.
dynamic, and this is just me personally, and I'm gonna possibly get hate on this, but I accept it. So in my personal compare and contrast, I would personally compare, the new reboot of Charmed
No, I'm kidding.
versus, in my opinion, the new
Recognize
reboot
it.
of Roswell. And here's why. So in the new reboot of Charmed, what I've seen a lot of is some of that kind of pontificating that like,
Oh, a lot.
there's like, just so you know, you can always revoke your consent, then just so you know, you can do this, and just kind of like, it felt like no one who actually faces these issues actually talks like this.
Yeah.
And I contrast that personally, because I'm just a huge fangirl, to the new Roswell, and here's why. In the first episode, you have the main character, Liz Oteco, is stopped by the police at a traffic stop, right? And they let the other people pass through. She kind of goes off, just because she's angry. She's like, okay, you know what? Fine. You're going to stop listening? Okay, fine. So, like, the ACLU is going to be so up for your ass. And she goes and grabs her passport. Not her driver's license, her passport. Which I feel is a very specific choice. Because it's like, I've got to prove that I belong here. And it's something that she does very kind of naturally. It's like, you know what? I'm pissed. I'm irritated. Sure. And then she kind of realizes, wait, this may not be what I think it is. But I feel like, as a person of color, you're like, I am moving through this world who's always trying to find reasons to say why I'm wrong. And I'm prepared for that. So it's a situational issue where this comes up, and less of a, let's stop and have a conversation. It's like, this is how we communicate. This is how we need to have this conversation. So that's my 2 cents.
No, it's great. The difference between monologuing and Charmed versus the situational awareness in Roswell.
And it just brings up something that I've experienced personally. That's why I related to that so much. Was anyone who has African relatives who have the green passport, going into an airport and you bust out the green passport, it's always like they. Whereas when you have your blue American passport, it's just like, hey, sail away, sailing through. It's such a different experience, and I find myself having to be like, when I'm at the airport, busting out my passport and be like, and I'm just like, okay, let's just go through here. Yeah, so I really, really, really have felt that scene so much. So,
Question in the audience for y'all. Yes.
I think that, given the range of people that we're talking about, we were progressively getting better. But I wonder if there's a portrayal or a show that's kind of makes you question all the things that you've loved before. Like right now, The Expanse is like killing everything because I'm like all these missed opportunities. And so I'm wondering if there has been like an experience where you've like, they really got this right. I wish they could have done this in other iterations, in Stargate or in Sleepy Hollow or whatever, Walking Dead, obviously.
For me, it was Space Above and Beyond with, forgot what her name is, but she played Damgos. I thought that was the first. Yeah. I think that was the first time where I got to see a warrior, and I liked the fact that she was part of the crew, all of the type of things, and you got to see the progression. And then they just dropped the show, so that was one where I thought if they had continued on, that there could have been.
For me, it's a show that's actually currently going on, the current Star Trek. I love Michael Burnham. I think that she is fantastic. I love the fact that, once again, she is not perfect. She's just trying, she's struggling between the two parts of her, and I really feel that they're getting that right. I feel that she's made really bad choices, but who has not? Who hasn't? And then she's got a second chance. And she's powerful, she's in relationship, she's doing her thing, but I really, really like...
She's in a relationship with Klingons.
That's nasty. Well, the heart was what the heart was.
He's taken by that other
also Sense8, one of my favorite shows. Why, people? Just crowdfund then, okay? If it's so expensive, crowdfund. And for me, it was Cephas, his mom. She lives in the slum, but she raised a fantastic, loving son. All right, she is sick. She has a deadly disease, but she's still living her life. She's also in relationships with this kind of sort of bad guy, good guy, who knows. But, you know, I really liked her portrayal, and I just wish that they would continue with Sense8 because I love that show so much.
I know for me, and it's a kind of a weird thing that I felt like they got this right, and people question me. I loved Dark Angel so much when it came out. I loved Jessica Alba playing Max Cabrera, particularly the first season. And what I loved about her, and for me it was one of like my first times where I really saw something that was like urban fantasy. Like, I loved the fact that she struggled to pay her rent. I loved the fact that she had a crappy ass job. I loved the fact that she had friends of multiple ethnicities and races who had their own problems that we got to read. I loved that she hated her boss. And that she had a past and a background which kept on influencing her current world. And she had this drive to find her family, her multi-ethnic family at that. And, you know, what family meant to her. And so there was a level of, I felt, gravity and groundedness in especially like the first season, which I really didn't find other places. You know, I really felt the weight of, you know, Max's history and also her desires. Like, there's this one particular episode where she's supposed to go somewhere with Logan and he's like mulching on her and she's pissed. And then she's like, I hung upside down, I did all these things just so I had to go on vacation. You're not backing out. And I'm like, yes, I understand that pain. You know, or she's talking to him and he's like trying to do something and she's like, I know you're feeling this way, but I would welcome you not to be like a basic white dude right now. And like she says it to his face and it's like, yeah, that's accurate. I understand those emotions. And so yeah, that was one for me.
I think for me, it's that Netflix show that's out, Sense8. You guys seen it? Well, for me, that's, and I could be wrong from what I remember from Sci-Fi. For me, that's going to be the first South Asian woman who has a main role. She's not like some side character off to the side, and you find out later on that she was Indian. They try to hide it with makeup or whatnot. So this, for me, I want to see what they do with this character. I want to see if they'll actually grow that character, if they'll, you know, toss in a Bollywood number for no apparent reason, just for the sake of it.
Are they all for no reason?
But yeah, for me, I want to see how that character grows. Because, like I was saying, growing up, I didn't see a ton of people that look like me. But now, there's more out there, and there's more people, and I like to see where it goes.